Hey guys, hello everyone. Am I audible? Okay, cool. Wow, the last presentation was awesome, so great job. Okay, I'm going to be talking about how to get involved with Ethereum. I hope you guys have a general idea of what Ethereum is. My name is Aditya. I do like academic research, write papers and stuff about lots of blockchain stuff at the Ethereum Foundation. And when you get really deep into some kind of niche tech, you kind of forget that there's a society out there that may not know what the tech is or what you know. So what is Ethereum? Okay, so I had a funny experience this week. Ether in terms of Atma and Paramatma or an ethereal sense, it may be fleeting and stuff. So this is not what I mean when I say Ethereum. It's not related to anything like this, nothing spiritual. It's Ethereum, the decentralized smart contracts platform. And it's totally your best friend at hackathons. You can make great stuff. Why should you care about this, right? It's basically programmable money. You want to make something which, interacts with money in a codified interaction. Use Ethereum. And hey, it's also decentralized. And if any of you remember the Crypto Anarchist Manifesto, which was saying that we should advocate the use of cryptography to return power to the people and stuff. Well, this is it. And in recent news, you may have heard about the PMC bank scam and something like that. So none of this is going to happen with this decentralized smart contract platform and this kind of programmable money. That's all fine, but you're at a hackathon and you don't really care about all that. So why you should really care about Ethereum? How many of you are engineers? I hope like lots and lots of you all are engineers, right? So you must have heard this somewhere before, but blockchain mein bahut scope hai. So there's lots of opportunities for basically everyone, engineer or not engineer, community manager, anything. If you are a developer, then there's lots of dApps, which is decentralized apps, lots of services, business-to-business services and stuff like that. Frameworks and platforms that you can build that take blockchain and make it accessible to the real world. For researchers, it's an amazing field. If you are a computer science major, it's actually amazing because you get to apply everything that you have learned. And I mean everything, from networks to OS to cryptography to even discrete math at sometimes. And it's great for research and enthusiasts who may not necessarily be technical people. This is a community project. Ethereum is a community project. It is an open source. It has an open source culture. And if you're into that sort of a thing and want to be a leader, this is great. So let's talk about what concrete opportunities are there. So there's a few main areas that exist. So there's a protocol level where basically you build the blockchain platform itself, and then there's apps. So you use this blockchain platform to kind of produce more value through apps. And roughly it looks like, the protocol level looks like there's layer 1, which means the actual blockchain. So you develop specifications for the actual blockchain. So this means consensus, crypto economics, cryptography, all those things. This is like the research side of it. So if you are interested in distributed systems, cryptography, networking, P2P stuff, it's great for research. And if you are a developer and you don't want to do research, then you can actually implement all of these specifications. You can write a blockchain client. If you've heard of ETH2, which is the next version of Ethereum, there's a few client developers out there. So these client developers basically take the specification of the blockchain, take all the rules of the network, and convert it into some software that users run. So it's kind of similar to how torrent works. There's a torrent protocol, and then there's lots of torrent clients. So these people actually implement the clients here. And there's scope for performance testing, so network performance, node performance, all of those things, and formal verification. This is actually a very, very intense topic. Formal verification means you take some specification, you convert it into like math symbols, and you input it into a program that checks your proofs. So it basically tells you whether you've made any silly mistake in your proof somewhere or something. That even works for like software. You can actually check that the software does what you want it to do and nothing else. And it's great for that. There's layer 2, which is not the base blockchain layer. It's built on top, but it's still a protocol. It's not an app. And these are called state channels and plasma. And they're mainly scalability enhancers. You get scalability through these. And there's a few projects in India that do plasma and stuff. And a new thing that I heard just this month is it's called layer 0. It's basically the thing that is underlying this P2P network. So the network layer, how messages are propagated in peer-to-peer networks, stuff like that. In terms of dApps, there's like 3 main categories. The first, maybe you've heard of it, it's called DeFi, decentralized finance. And if you're interested in fintech at all, this is where you should be looking. So one of them is called MakerDAO. What it does is it maintains some sort of a token on a blockchain that has a fixed value in fiat currency. And it's actually managed by an algorithm. So it's called an algorithmic stablecoin. And it's amazing. We never thought things like this could exist before blockchain came up. There's Compound, which actually lets you lend your Ether and stuff like that. There's InstaDApp, which is actually an Indian startup, and Juno, which I recently heard about, which is I think based in Bangalore here. There's Oracle-based services. So blockchain is great and all, but somewhere you need the blockchain to interact with the real world. And oracles are just things which take real world data and put it into the blockchain. So what kind of things can you build with it? The possibilities are like endless. So I think the most popular one is prediction markets. There's a specific one is called Augur. It lets you take bets. So I think one of the most popular bets going on right now is, will Justin Trudeau win the Canadian election? And there's lots of money riding on both sides, and it's quite nice to see. Then there's proof of location stuff. It's basically something like GPS, but GPS with decentralized programmable money. So one of the protocols is called Foam, if you want to check it out. And then there's native blockchain apps, which are very specific to this blockchain field and useful only in that context. So a good example would be Ethereum name service. So it's some sort of DNS-like thing which maps actually words to addresses. So you can buy domains which map to your address and so on. Another one is called gas token. Kind of don't want to get into the technical part of it, so just skip that. And it's not limited to software developers or researchers. We have a big contest coming up for hardware designers. So the problem here is you're given a kilobit input X, and you have to compute 2 power X power T as fast as you can. And if you can make the fastest one yet, which is beat 28.6 nanoseconds for each squaring of this, then there's a $100,000 prize waiting for you. And you can check it out at bdfalliance.org. For hardcore cryptographers and mathematicians, there's this contest involving this pseudo-random function. So it's not that hard. Just like look into what it is. I'm sure you'll find it interesting. So it's basically you have to basically break this function. It has a key somewhere and it gives you some output. And if you can just look at the output and predict what the key is, then you've broken this. So either the contest is either break this and obtain the key, or prove that it's not possible to break it. And in fact, this contest is actually quite interesting because what they did was they like made a bunch of keys and published the outputs of this function with those keys on a smart contract. And if you're able to find one of the keys, you just show that key to the smart contract and you're paid out directly, no interaction needed. So it's like HackerRank, but if you solve it, you get actual money and that's it. So you can check it out at legendryprf.org. Yeah. the great thing is there's lots of scope for 10x engineers. I hope you guys have heard of this term 10x. It's like people who are very productive. And you're at the best hackathon in India, so I guess you're all really productive and have 48 hours to learn anything. So one example of a person I know who is a 10x researcher and engineer, his handle is Proto Lambda on GitHub. So in February of this year, there was a bounty for writing up the blockchain specification in Go in 1,000 lines of code. Okay, it was interesting, and Proto did this, and he saw the bounty in February, solved it, and submitted it in March, and in April he actually got hired by the EF. So that happens a lot. If you're a 10x engineer and you want to get into the space, you probably should apply to an EF grant. Another example is LayerX. This is a company from Japan. So they started doing formal verification work in December of last year, published a paper in May. In September of this year, the Ethereum Foundation gave them a grant, and they actually presented at DevCon just this month. And they've been doing great work. They've been posting on forums and so on. So if you want to be a 10x researcher, you have to keep using these forums and share your research all the time. So if you have an idea that benefits the Ethereum community, you can apply for a foundation grant at this site. It's called ecosystem.support. If you want to take a picture of that or something. So 3, 2, 1. Okay. Right. So many of these roles that are open that I just told you about are from the Ethereum Foundation, because I know more about open roles in the Ethereum Foundation than outside. But the EF is just a small part of this larger Ethereum ecosystem. And there's lots of open roles and jobs and everything out there. So you should really explore. One of the things I would suggest is Gitcoin bounties. So people post bounties for finding bugs or like solving a very specific problem, like helping them implement their tech, and they actually pay really well. So you should definitely check this out. Yeah, and my advice to beginners in Ethereum would be that don't go and invent some new unsolved problem. Just take some existing unsolved problem and start working on that. Work with other community members for sure. Everyone in the community is very open, very keen to collaborate with others, and don't be afraid to pivot very frequently. So one day you're doing like networking, P2P stuff, the other you're doing cryptography or like distributed systems or whatever. So don't be afraid to do that. And regularly publish and share your work with others. There's lots of forums where you can share your work. One of them is called ETH Research. It's a great site if you want attention from the research community for some problem or some implementation that you have had. You should post it here. You'll definitely get attention. And here is a list of problems that someone has curated. This is actually a bit outdated. This is from 2018 or something, or 2017. But many of these problems still hold. They are large open problems. And if you can solve them, this definitely is going to be of interest to the community. Okay. Yeah, that will be all. Thanks. And if you want to reach out to me, you can either find me on Twitter or email. All right.